working fast and efficient in Blender. It's something we would all want and like to be able to do, but it's something you gotta learn and gotta prepare yourself for. And in these videos I wanna go through the steps I take to get a nice efficient workflow with pretty good results, I think. In the background you can see some examples of what I am able to make in 1 hour, and that's where we're going to concentrate on in this video. What can you make in 1 hour and how can you get the most out of your result in 1 hour? I've split this up in multiple videos because I think there's multiple steps that you need to take before you can get a nice result in 1 hour. And basically we're going to go through these steps. This first video is going to go through the steps you need to take before you can even start doing the 1 hour challenge. So basically preparing yourself. And this is not only going to help you in these challenges, but is going to help you improve your workflow and your efficiency overall in any project. So what I've done to increase my efficiency for my projects is set up my start file as a nice thing I want to start with when I open Blender. You can go to File, Defaults, Save Startup File to set up a startup file. So whatever you have open right now will be your startup file once you press this button. So make it exactly the way you want it to be when you load up Blender. Before I had this, I would go through all these steps when I loaded up Blender. I would go to cycles, I would have to set this to GPU, I would have to go to film and set this to transparent, I would have to go to the view transform and set this to filmic when it was filmic and now AGX, and set this to very high contrast because I think these are the settings you want to work with. Imagine you have a bad GPU or you're working with a CPU and you still want to work in rendered view because you want to be able to see how everything looks and feels within your scene. You can also set this up, so for example set this advanced setting to something like this. You can see it still looks the same, but you get some weird artifacts whenever moving around, but when you wait a little bit it looks nice. You can also set the performance, your pixel size from the viewport to ×2. It's gonna look a bit more pixelated, but you can still see what's going on in the scene. And you could set this up as your startup file if you have a bad GPU or CPU. You can see when I switch over to CPU, it still loads really fast because I've changed these settings. If you could also set the viewport noise threshold to 1, which is gonna make it a little bit faster as well. So you can change around some settings to get a to get what you want to be able to work in the viewport fast. So now if you have set up your startup file the way you want, so that you can work in your viewport, like in your rendered view, or maybe you just like to work viewport shading anyways, then you can just work in there. But then you want to set up a asset browser and some add-ons that will help you get a faster workflow as well. You can see when I've opened up Blender, it instantly opens my asset browser, because this is really where the magic comes from in working efficiently and fast. You gotta know what assets you have and how you can use them to the best of your abilities. So for example, right now, if I want to make a scene, I know exactly which assets I have and where to find them. And I'm gonna show you some examples of assets I would put into my asset browser to create a nice and quick scene. First of all, you would want some textures. You want a quick access to textures because textures are really important and you want them to be high quality, of course. Well, I can just drag and drop textures in for my Polyhaven add-on, which I have another video on and I will link it on the top. So you can go to this, how to get it for free. You can also buy it. The Polyhaven add-on has a really nice feature that you can go in here, either increase the resolution or set up a displacement. And this is adaptive subdivisions. so it will adapt to how far you are from the object. When I hit shade smooth, it will refresh this, so you can see here it's pretty detailed, and at the back it will be less detailed. So you can see there's less displacement here because it's further away from the point where I shaded it smooth, and now there will be more detail here. So that's a pretty nice feature that will help improve performance, but also gives a lot of detail. I'll show you before and after the displacement. You can see you can get a lot of detail with something like this. Then I also have set up a HDRI in my startup file, so that's something to take into consideration because this already looks pretty good. Because I also have AGX as standard view transform and my look set to very high contrast. If I were to say that set this to standard and set this to none, you can see that it looks a bit more washed out. I mean, it still looks pretty good, but I think this looks way better, especially with the lighting from the HDRI. But I think this is more realistic. Alright, so we have somewhere to find our textures. I would suggest this Polyhaven, which also has some models that you can just drag and drop in, which looks pretty good as well. So Polyhaven add-on, will link it on the top. Somewhere to get your vegetation, I would suggest getting the light version of Botanic, which is really cheap, used to be free. Unfortunately, it's not free anymore. If you have the free version, you have this option right here. Where is Polygonic? You can scatter some grass. This one is free, or this one is in the light version, I think. And you will have grass pretty easily like that. Scale it up a bit to get some spots that don't have grass like this. Looks pretty nice. We're gonna change the lighting later so that it looks even nicer, and you would have some free, or not free, it's not free anymore. You would have this tree, I believe, as well in the light version. Now you can use it to create some nice looking nature environments. So I would suggest to get some vegetation that you can access quickly, either through the asset browser or through Botanic. You can also find some vegetation in BlenderKit, which I would suggest getting, and there's also vegetation in Polyhaven. You have some trees and stuff that you can also just drag and drop in, and they look pretty nice. So there's multiple options to get these vegetations, and they all look pretty high quality. Now we have textures and vegetation and some models. Models are also accessible through BlenderKit. But there are some models that are really high quality and pretty cheap as well, and that's the Megascans. You can get Megascans for 1 month for 20 euros, dollars, whatever, and you can get 22 Megascans. So what I did, it was get one month of Quixel Bridge Megascans and just download a bunch of them that I could scatter around. I used this to make multiple scenes just with these assets. I can show you some examples. When I didn't have the 1 month, I only had this one, and you can even make a scene by only duplicating this one. Be sure to duplicate with Alt-D, that way it doesn't increase your vertices. It will stay on 43,000, and you can basically infinitely duplicate them around, and they all look pretty good. This is a 2K version, but you can download 4K of course if you want. So I would suggest getting some Megascans. Look closely on which one you will need, and which one you can use to duplicate around to get nice looking results, even with 1 or 2 Megascans. This is a free one as well, so there's 3 free ones. This one is free, this one is free, and this one is free. So no excuse in not getting these, and they're all high quality. Okay, then I would suggest getting some human models. I will link a video on this as well. There's even this 4D human, which is pretty cool. You apparently have to set this to 30 FPS, which will fix whatever just happened. As you can see, it looks pretty cool. This is free as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But these humans look pretty nice. And I have some buildings from, what's it called? Kitbash 3D. And I think they have cargo right now. They have some free models on cargo, I believe. So you can get these free models and just drag and drop them in if you get them into your asset browser, which I would still suggest. So this is free, you know, look at the quality on this. So that's pretty cool. So that's basically the asset browser. I have textures, some nice models, vegetations, scans of nature, rocks and stuff, and buildings. These are all the things I use that are really helpful. BlenderKit I use for whatever I can't find in here. And you also have the Sketchfab add-on, which most of the people on Sketchfab you will have to credit. So I try to avoid using it as much as possible. But whenever you want to create a nice piece, it's handy to have this as well. Don't forget that you need to use an older version than 4.0 to use the Sketchfab add-on. So that's pretty annoying. So you will have to download an older version. It's still faster than having to import and export everything from out of Sketchfab. So if you set up all these things, I think it's the best foundation to work from whenever you start working, and the most efficient way to work. Because you can just start dragging and dropping stuff in. When you have these foundations, you're ready for the next step, and that's gonna be the next video, where we're going to look at how to start, how to come up with an idea and execute on this in the best way possible. Where can you find the highest quality models? Well, we already kind of talked about that, to get to the point there where you want to be. And after that, probably the last episode is where we're going to look at placing the assets and lighting them in a nice way. And maybe I'll make a last episode on color grading and stuff, but I'm not the best at this. So I hope it was helpful, and hopefully until the next episode. Thanks for watching. Bye.